Let's turn to China's ally Pakistan, where Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi has been elected the interim prime minister after the opposition failed to agree on a joint candidate against the ruling PMLN. Here's more on the billionaire politician who will be prime minister for 45 days.
So who is Shahid Khaqan Abbasi? 58-year-old Abbasi is a 6-time lawmaker and has held the portfolio of Federal Minister of Petroleum and Natural Resources in the Sharif government. Behind the dour expression that some say is his constant companion lies an intelligent mind. He did his master's in electrical engineering from the United States and worked in Saudi Arabia before fate intervened. His father, Khaqan Abbasi, a federal minister in the Zia-ul-Haq cabinet and a former Pakistani Air Force officer, died when a missile from an exploding ammunition dump hit his car. In 1988, Shahid Abbasi took the political plunge, going on to win the election and becoming a member of the National Assembly. Since then, Abbasi has won every election he contested, barring one in 2002. In the past, he has held the portfolio of Parliamentary Secretary for Defence, Chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence, Chairman of State-owned National Carrier Pakistan International Airlines, Federal Minister for Commerce and Defence Production. He is a billionaire and founded Pakistan's low-cost airline, Air Blue, in 2003. Shahid Abbasi was jailed after Nawaz Sharif was ousted in a bloodless coup in 1999 and was acquitted 2 years later. He is seen as a staunch Nawaz Sharif loyalist. Perhaps that is what clinched it in his favor, but he is not without controversy. In 2015, the federal anti-corruption watchdog National Accountability Bureau is reported to have registered a case in connection with the fraud of a multi-billion-dollar contract for import of liquefied natural gas. Reports say he is the principal accused in the case as the alleged corruption happened on his watch as the head of Federal Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Resources. Shahid Abbasi becomes the 7th interim or caretaker prime minister in Pakistan's history. He will occupy the post for about 45 days or until Shehbaz Sharif becomes eligible to become prime minister in succession to his elder brother Nawaz. Bureau Report, WION.
Joining us from Washington, Michael Kugelman, Senior Associate for the South Asia Program at the Woodrow Wilson Center, and Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation in the National Capital. Good evening to both of you. Sushant, what do we know about this man and what does he face in the short stint that he'll have in office?
First a clarification. There is no interim prime minister in Pakistan. There are caretaker prime ministers, but those guys are appointed just prior to elections. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi is a proper prime minister. Whether he stays for 45 days or longer is another matter. So he's not a caretaker, number one. Number two, I think after what has happened to Nawaz Sharif, I don't think it matters who becomes prime minister in Pakistan, because the status of prime ministers and how they can be summarily dismissed under really vague charges where the judges can decide in a premeditated manner that what kind of a judgment they have to deliver and then find the reasons for delivering that judgment. I don't think after that it really makes a difference whether it's Abbasi or Shehbaz Sharif comes in. The third thing is that whether Shehbaz Sharif might actually become prime minister, suddenly there seems to be some kind of a rethink going on. Because to move Shehbaz Sharif from the bastion, which is Punjab, to Islamabad might turn out to be, not the right move. So I think there is some rethink going on. So it's possible that Mr. Abbasi might last out until the next elections. As far as what we know about him, he is not a political heavyweight. He is, he has his support in his pocket borough of Murree, from where he wins his elections. But beyond that, he is certainly not the kind of a person who can either pose a challenge to the Sharif family's dominance over the Muslim League Nawaz, or have some kind of a major support faction within the party. So he clearly is somebody who will depend upon the Sharifs for whatever little political capital he brings to the office. Beyond that, there are some charges against him, especially on the LNG case, but there is no case against him as yet. There is only an inquiry which has been ordered. What has happened to that inquiry is not known. While it is true that there are a lot of questions and insinuations regarding the LNG deal, it seems to have been very hush-hush. It seems to have been done by the same with the same Qataris from whom Nawaz Sharif's entire case rested, on this money laundering and this entire property case, Panama Papers case. That was the money trail they furnished. So there is a lot of murkiness in this particular deal. But as of now, there is nothing specific that can be pinned upon him. A lot of insinuations, but no solid evidence as yet which has come. That might come out, because now that the floodgates have opened, that you can charge anybody with anything, and every prime minister is now left open to all sorts of charges. And if somebody up there does not like his face, then you can always use the courts. Earlier, it used to be the president of the country who used to use an infamous article in the constitution to sack people. Now the judges are going to play that role. So, frankly, like a Pakistani politician once said, the only thing certain in Pakistan is the past. What happens in the future, nobody knows.
Michael Kugelman, do you agree? Do you believe that the events of the past few days have seriously undermined the office of the Prime Minister? So much so that the sitting Prime Minister was ousted on the basis of a case which did not hold much water. And now a man has been appointed just to keep the seat warm for Nawaz Sharif's brother to take over.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think the most important thing to consider about this new Prime Minister is how close he is to the Sharifs. I think that Nawaz Sharif wants to fight through this political crisis. He wants to figure out a way for his party to remain strong and in control, and I think that he wants to be in the trenches with those that have always been there with him, and that would include Mr. Abbasi. I mean, they've been close for many years. I do think, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't want to speculate too much. I mean, I do think, based on the indications I've heard, that he will be in power just for a few weeks, for a few months at the most, before Shahbaz Sharif is able to take over, which will, of course, be a very brief time, as elections are scheduled for really just over a year, or actually just under a year. But to your other question about whether the office of the Prime Minister has been undercut, yeah, I would say that it has, unfortunately. This is what happened to Nawaz Sharif last week is, of course, not the first time that a civilian Prime Minister has been booted from power. I mean, just 5 years ago, Prime Minister Gilani was disqualified. And it's true that the justification that was used by the Supreme Court, which essentially had nothing to do with the corruption investigation pertaining irrelevant to the Panama Papers, but really, invoking this morality clause, so to speak, this Article 62 and 63 of the Constitution, saying that essentially just because Sharif had not declared about $2,000 worth of monthly income from this company that his son owns meant that he had been dishonest and untruthful and therefore was not fit for office. Clearly, there have been political leaders and military leaders in Pakistan that have done things much more serious than that, and they were not removed from power. So, my own view is that what happened to Nawaz Sharif has happened before, and unfortunately, it will probably happen again at some point in the not too distant future.
Sushant Sareen, this is something we were discussing earlier in the newsroom here. We've seen arrangements like this in India. The most recent example was O Paneerselvam in Tamil Nadu. What are the chances that that the current Prime Minister's personal ambition kicks in?
No, he could have the personal ambition, but I think he's reached the epitome of his personal ambition. After all, you become the Prime Minister, whether for 1 day, 13 days or 45 days or maybe a year, you are the Prime Minister. But, I think what is more important is going to be what happens in Pakistani politics. I think Michael is quite right when he says that Nawaz Sharif will be in the trenches and will be trying to fight for his political survival. But I think the way this case has gone and the constellation of forces arraigned against Mr. Nawaz Sharif leads me to believe that it is almost written on the wall how that criminal case, which is now going to be finished in the next 6 months, is likely to go, what direction that is going to take. And it's pretty clear to me that at least Nawaz Sharif and his immediate family is likely to be probably imprisoned, found guilty and imprisoned. And there is already a sword hanging over Shahbaz Sharif's head, because one of those cases, which may or may not open, although the court has ordered an inquiry, is a case in which his fingerprints are all over the place, the Hudaybiyah paper mills case, which was really the case from where it is believed that the money laundering took place. So Shahbaz Sharif might be implicated in that, and there are a couple of other criminal cases which could be brought onto the forefront. They are a bit on the back burner right now to do another bhutto on Shahbaz Sharif as well. So I have a feeling, it's a very dirty feeling, that the Sharif family is living on borrowed time, and I think the powers that be in Pakistan have decided to see the back of the Sharif family. Although Shahbaz Sharif has been a very obedient fellow as far as the army is concerned. He's never tried to take any kind of liberties, or never tried to push the envelope with the army, always kowtowed to them. But I'm not so sure if the army is likely to countenance his coming into power and staying on for any length of time.
Michael Kugelman, the irony is that an opposition leader who himself faces a corruption case rallied against the Prime Minister, who was then dethroned, and the baton was handed over to another man who also faces a corruption case. Are there any clean politicians in the system there?
Well, no, this is certainly very true, and I think that Imran Khan has long tried to project himself and also his party as much cleaner than that of the established parties in Pakistan, the PMLN, the ruling party, and also the Pakistan People's Party, and yet that argument has been undercut. I think you raise an interesting point about Imran Khan. There seem to be a number of observers in Pakistan, and certainly supporters of the PTI party, that think that Imran Khan is in great shape and that he's on the fast track to becoming prime minister next year. I don't think that's the case at all, and certainly the corruption case revolving around him is certainly a factor. But also you have to look at the PTI as a party. Clearly, it's in the short term, it's really benefited from Nawaz Sharif's ouster. It had been calling for him to be removed really since the day he took office, because you remember before the Panama Papers stuff came out, the PTI was accusing Nawaz Sharif of committing vote rigging in the 2013 election. So the PTI is really sitting pretty right now, but this is not a party that has the established presence and the national presence of the PMLN. It doesn't have the political machine. It hasn't mastered the patronage system that you've had the PMLN using and mastering over the years. So it'll be a tough slog for the PTI. And this is a party that's been having some other controversies, some of which have just come out in the news today. So, I think that a lot of PTI members would find this abhorrent to think of this possibility, but it could be. If we look at next year's national election, the PMLN could fare quite well, and who knows, it may even win a majority, though, as your other guest said, it does depend a lot on what the outcome is of these other legal investigations that are coming involving Nawaz Sharif's kids, as well as a legal investigation involving the financial assets of Ishaq Dar, who had been the finance minister of Pakistan, a key leader in the PTI, and also a key official as finance minister.
Imran Khan, a leg up, though, is the fact that he has the military's backing. I'm going to thank you both, Sushant Sareen, Michael Kugelman, for joining us here on Gravitas. We are taking a break at this point. Still ahead on this show, the Trump Survivor Series, 12 top aides gone in less than 6 months. Is the White House of Cards crashing under Trump?